Mr. Transformers 96 here from the video review. This time we have from the Marvel Legends the 10-year anniversary line, the 3-pack of Thanos. This will just be a review of Thanos himself. The Iron Man and Doctor Strange that come in that pack I actually don't own. I ended up just purchasing Thanos by himself at a discounted rate because I really didn't care for those other two figures. So yeah, but before we start talking about Thanos real fast, just want to show you this quick pose that I put together of the scene from Infinity War where they're trying to get the gauntlet off of Thanos. I did make a separate video discussing this pose and going into more detail and showing you guys up close, so feel free to check that out. But let's get into the Thanos figure himself. Alright, so this is a review of this Thanos figure. However, I'm going to be heavily comparing it to the previous one, which is the Build-A-Figure of the first Avengers Infinity War Marvel Legends wave. Basically, with the 10th year anniversary series, they're making new characters. They're also taking old characters and old figures and kind of improving them, making them more accurate, things like that. This is one of the situations where they did just improve it and make it better. This isn't a completely new character because, of course, as you can see from the left there, we do already have a Thanos figure. But but it was in desperate need of an update, and here we do have an update. Now, with a lot of the figures in this line, I'm totally cool with that. I'm very happy with it. With this one, it's just disappointing considering the last figure just came out. So, I mean, since the figure just came out, it shouldn't need an update. It's a little ridiculous that the one that came out a couple months ago needs an update, and that's very disappointing. And, you know, had they just done it right the first time, it wouldn't have been necessary to do an extra or one that was needed to be like movie accurate, because the previous one was so inaccurate. I still like the previous one. I think that there are some things that I like about it. His skin color, although not accurate, I think is cool. Like, I think it's more bluish on the purple scale essentially. So although it's not accurate, you know, like whatsoever, I think that it is still a cool color. But of course I would have much preferred a more accurate color. And then it does have like a gloss look to it. That's something that's very disappointing. I wish it was more matte. The face sculpt, though, I definitely like the smirk that it had. It had like a little smile, and I think the sculpt itself is really nice. You do get two completely new heads with this new one. You get a new hand, and then you get new paint. That's essentially the difference between the two of the Thanos sculpt. So sculpting-wise, this head and this fist is unique to this Build-A-Figure. You won't get it with this one. You do get different versions, though. And then as far as just the paint, how it's been redone, you have a much lighter purple, which I'm not quite sure if it's coming across, you know, how accurate in this image it's coming across to how it actually looks in real life, because it almost looks a little bluish on the camera here. I'm not sure if on the computer it's going to look more accurate though. But this is a very light purple. It looks pretty perfect to what he should be in the movie, and for most shots of him, I think this is a really nice representation of the color of his skin from the film. So I do like that quite a bit. The gold is a much deeper, darker yellowish gold, which I love. And then they did actually sculpt, or not sculpt, but they did design the detail in his little collarbone armor sections. So you do have that nice detail here, which is completely lacking from this one. And that is something that is accurate. Like, when I saw that, I was like, I don't particularly remember that, but I assume it's accurate. And then I watched the movie last night and specifically looked for that. And yes, he does actually have that in the film, which is quite nice. And then the torso, I mean, it's slightly darker for the blue, but it's almost the same. The pants are more brown here. They're more like a grayish brown over here. And then the boots maybe are slightly darker, but overall they're about the same. And of course the gold throughout it is a deeper version of gold. As far as the gauntlet colors go, they're very similar. They are very similar, but it does have more of like a darker wash in this one. Well, this one has just more of a just darker copper wash. So there's a slight difference in the way that they've been colored, but overall they are very similar. And as far as the sculpts are concerned, obviously one open hand, it's almost in like a clenched position. So this works for a lot of things. This can work for him like with his hand up in the air, you know, in the classic villain type of pose where he's kind of cursing the world. You can have it where he's holding something, or you can have it where he's shooting some sort of energy from the gauntlet. Although he does need his hand and a fist to use the energy, but still, it does look very cool. So this hand, I do think is quite nice. My only issue is that the fist is also really good because, of course, like I mentioned, for him to use the gauntlet, he needs to make a fist. They made a point of saying that in the movie and everything. So it's a shame that if you didn't get the Build-A-Figure and you just wanted this one because it's the better one, of course, that you wouldn't get the fist. So that is disappointing. However, if you did want to represent this version with a fist, you can do that, because the hands, although, I mean, it's not like they were ever made with the specific function of being able to pop off, they are able to pop off, and they use the same joint, and the coloring is almost the same on them, so you can do that. And as you can see, I mean, he looks great. Like, obviously the coloring is just the taddest bit off, but it's just about exactly what it needs to be. Let's see if we can get it. There we go. Yeah, it looks great. So you can absolutely, if you have both versions, switch out the hands, you know, because this one over here looks fine as well. So you can absolutely switch out the hands if you want and give the new version the fist on the gauntlet if you so desire. But again, I think that it would have been very necessary had they just gave you an extra fist for this new version, because the fist is something like, with the head, the updates are really nice, but with the fist, like, although it's nice to have an open hand, your first choice, I think, would be a fist for a lot of the poses, so that is something that I'd say. But overall, the paint is really quite a lot better on this new one. Comparing the heads together, we'll compare all three expressions. So here's all three heads. Obviously the ones on the side are from the new version, the one in the middle is from the Build-A-Figure original version. And as you can see, the expressions are all different. That was something that I wasn't even quite sure of before I purchased this. I knew that the angry expression was certainly new, but I wasn't sure if the regular one was just the same expression with a different paint job. But no, it is completely different. I will say the sculpts on all three of these are fantastic. I really like the sculpts. I think that they very much represent the character of Thanos and how Josh Brolin portrayed him and how the motion capture worked on him. I think it absolutely represents how he looked in the film. So I love the sculpt on all three of these. I think they're fantastic. Paint, of course, obviously the middle one maintains the skin coloring that the, you know, Build-A-Figure has, which is that much darker, bluer version of purple that has like a gloss to it, which is a shame. And then the ones on the side are obviously the very light purple, which much more represent him from the film, and it's more of just a matte, which I think does look a lot better. As far as the pupils are all painted very nicely. Yeah, I think that they are painted really nice. I know on mine, he's kind of looking to this side, but both eyes are looking to the same direction, so that doesn't bother me at all. I'm not sure if they're supposed to be looking straight on, but on my copy, he's kind of looking to one side ever so slightly, but since both eyes are doing it, it doesn't look bad or anything. And then you have the main one here. There we go. As you can see, this one's looking straight on, but he looks very nice. Really, I mean, that's a great sculpt, especially for Marvel Legends. Little Hasbro figure. And that's a fantastic sculpt right there. Overall, love all three of these expressions. My only issue is, like, I really like this middle one, but it's just a shame that it's the wrong paint, because if you know, this figure used the same paint, you could obviously switch between the two, but it's a shame that they didn't get the paint right on the first go-around, that they needed an update to get the paint right. But all three heads are fantastic. I really love all three of them. And here's the new version with that more serious head sculpt. So I do think that this looks quite nice. However, just I'm a big fan of expression, so I do prefer the just screaming head sculpt, especially since the other version, the Build-A-Figure, which, you know, obviously I do have, just has a more serious with a slight smirk. So this one is just extremely different from the other version, which makes it a little bit more fun. So I do like that quite a bit. Overall, this is a fantastic figure. Now, is it worth it? That's going to be the big question, especially for people who have the Build-A-Figure. Is it worth it to purchase this new version, considering the only things that are different is the paint, the face sculpts, and then the different expression on the hand? And I personally do think it's worth it. Now, for me, I'm a huge villains fan. Thanos is one of my favorite Marvel villains, and therefore, like, the villains take top priority to me. You know, I definitely want the best version of each character, and this one's great because it's not just a repaint. Like, the Ultron that's coming out desperately needed a repaint, but it could absolutely work with some newly sculpted parts too. With this one needed a repaint, and you could have just repainted, or they could have just repainted it without adding anything new, and it would have still been a huge improvement. But they did repaint it and then give you extra accessories, which I really am quite happy about. My only complaint is I wish that they gave you the old accessories with it. I wish that you got this head sculpt with the new paint, and then the fist for the gauntlet with the new paint. That would have been quite nice. Would have given you an option between 3 head sculpts and 2 gauntlet hands. That would have been great. It would have been really nice, just because for the most part it is just the same figure. So it would have been great to actually do that. And it is definitely, it disappoints me that they needed to do an update so soon after the original one came out. It's one thing when several years go by and their technique changes and they're able to make better figures, but when you just didn't do it right the first time because you're sloppy or lazy, or didn't have the proper images that you needed to do to create a figure, then that shouldn't be the collector's problem, you know? That shouldn't be something that they would have to rebuy to get the proper version of just a couple months later. So that makes me angry, but overall I really do love this figure. Absolutely would recommend it. The Doctor Strange and Iron Man in the series, I mean, if you don't have the original figures for them, those would be two good ones to get. But other than that, this is basically just a complete repack, a 3-pack. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend getting all 3, but they do update all 3 in interesting ways, so I am happy about that. So there you go. That's my video review of the Marvel Legends, the first 10 years 3-pack, just talking about the Thanos figure from the 3-pack. Yeah, the new Thanos figure. Let me know what you guys think of it, and thanks so much for watching.